Okay, everybody. Hey, welcome to Lady Wolverton's Den. This is Jen, and we've got a very special guest with us. I want everybody to welcome Marie Hill, who over a year ago put out several videos on Bloodraven, the Children of the Forest, the Doom of Westeros. And a few days ago, she compiled all those videos to make one, which I feel like is very cohesive on yet called The Doom of Westeros, which she thinks is going to happen. And it makes a lot of sense to me. So we're going to go over that. We're going to hear from her. Now, to make this work, because Marie is literally on the far side of the world from us here in Central Time Zone America, we had to do, so it's Sunday night, 7 o'clock for us, and we're all looking forward to shows and all of that. We've all had a long weekend, but it's Monday morning, like 10 a.m. ish for her. So you have to understand that. So if you can't be here, we completely understand that. We understand Westworld is starting tonight and everything else that means, but we're just going to get started, get our feet firmly planted on the door of this theory and the players involved in it. And then next week we'll go further. All right. So I am Jen, Lady Wolverton. Thank you for joining us. And LMR, if you want to introduce yourself now, and then Marie, if you'll just take us right on into a good overview of the theory. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is LMR. You can find me on one of my writing channels, which is Living My Rhapsody, or my reviews channel, Living Reviews, where I do my review of random things. As always, it's a pleasure to be here, Jen. Thank you so much for having me. And Marie, if you can introduce us to your lovely video, which it's a great video that you made. You made it actually I think a year ago. From what I saw, it's been here for a while, and then you were so nice to actually compile it into one larger video. So thank you so much.
Hello everyone. Yeah, I made these videos over a year ago, so I know that some people have made other videos, but every now and again when you do videos and you're talking about the same subject, ideas will clash. So what I came up with when reading and doing the research is I just can't believe that one guy with a fiery sword is going to be able to defeat the others. And remember, in the books, we haven't really seen the Night's King. It's different from the show. So what we've seen is the others. And so I came up with the kind of thing, especially with Dragonstone having a smoking mountain and all the walls being warm. So I've come up with kind of different theory than anyone else, and I was the first to come up with it. And for this particular video here, I just jammed them all into one, re-edited them into one. So that's where we're going with, from covering Bloodraven, Children of the Forest, Bran, and of course, which could lead to the Doom of Westeros, which will come in later. So thank you for having me, Jen, and nice to meet you again, LMR. And I suppose we'll get rolling. Jen?
All righty. Well, what we do, when you're talking about the video, one of the first things that you mention is you can't really talk about Bloodraven without talking about the person. I definitely think that Bloodraven is Brynden Rivers, who is a bastard son of Aegon the Unworthy, Aegon the Fourth, and supposedly his favorite mistress, Melissa Blackwood, who House Blackwood is actually in the Riverlands, I believe, near the Red Fork. They are the only Riverlanders, well, anybody south of the Neck, really, to keep the old gods, which is very interesting. It would be like being in Mississippi and being a Catholic, because everybody's Baptist, everybody's Protestant in Mississippi. And I grew up with that. And that, not everybody, but very similar situation. So we can all kind of relate to that, maybe being, somewhere where the prominent religion is a little bit different than what ours is. So one of the first things that we have to look at when we look at anything in this world, I believe, is not only what position you kind of hold at birth, whether it be your bastard. Being just a regular old peasant bastard is a heck of a lot different than being the bastard of a king. And Also, when his father died, he made they're called the Great Bastards, which is also, I believe, Louis the 14th's bastards were called that. And you can draw a little bit of parallel between Louis the 14th and Aegon the Unworthy, the gluttony, the like definitely the sexual stuff, like being a hoe basically and loving the hoes, which I guess is fine because hoes got to eat, no matter what century it is. But anyway, so also Louis the 14th legitimized all of his bastards upon his birth, which he had promised to do. And that's really where I see the parallel stopping. Louis the 14th during his time, though maybe now in history he comes off a little bit different, but he was actually considered probably the greatest king of his era. So, parallel stop there because he is definitely not remembered that way. In fact, he's remembered in a terrible way. So you've got that. So you've got, even though he's not super highborn or anything, he would definitely, have been on a social level with, I would think, a true Warren Lord's son, except for maybe some of the more haughty ones. Also, his mother, they have some interesting ancestry there. And so what we know is that not only are you judged by just what position you were naturally born into, but by your abilities as a fighter, as how you get along with people. And we've seen throughout the story, because we also see him a bit in the Dunk and Egg before he goes up to the wall. He lives pretty much a full life before he even gets sent to the wall, then lives another life up there at the Night's Watch, and then kind of lives another life beyond the wall, is I guess how I would describe it. And his mother's family, they are not only related to the Starks, but also possibly garner some of the same warging abilities from the same ancestor, which is the Ward King of Sea Dragon Point, who was defeated. And I want to also mention that the Blackwoods used to live in the Wolf's Wood, where not long ago on Book Club, we saw Tyrion and Jon. Tyrion describes it as a very creepy, maybe even a haunted place. And we don't really even know how come the Starks put them out. But they did. And I don't even think anybody really knows. Anything would just be speculation. But do you guys have anything to say about that?
The way you mentioned it, and I'm pretty sure that's how you meant it, was when you said that he lived so many lives. That is amazing for somebody to actually do. Normally, people are born to a family and they are set in what they're going to do, either if they're a bastard or if they are a firstborn son, they actually have things set up for them. But like you said, for him, he lived for such a long, I mean, he still lives, right, for such a long time. And for a person to live through so much, it's as if he saw everything. I mean, obviously not everything, but he saw a lot. So it's interesting how he keeps not only during his life, like regular natural life, he lived through so much, but now he's able to do that too, now that he's kind of being on a life support through the branches that are kind of intertwined.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it like he is well, when I look at it, I think of it from the perspective of when we get it through that ward that talks about how when you do die, if you don't go into an animal and live another full life as an animal, a wolf or something such as that, that's what he said would be the best second life, then you just kind of go into everything and you kind of become everything and you're in the werewood. Also, at one time he had a band of men called the Ravens. Was it the Ravens' Teeth? And they used werewood arrows. So not only did his mother's family keep the old gods, but he certainly believed that werewood held some kind of magical, mystical power. I mean, obviously, or they wouldn't have went to all the trouble.
Yep. I'm not sure if Marie wanted to add something to that too, because I know in her video she had so many great things that she mentioned. I'm not sure if because that video was a couple videos, so it was about 26 minutes long after combining all the videos. I'm not sure if she actually mentioned the arrows as well and the magic behind them. Marie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I didn't.
Okie doke. Well, okay, so what? So Brendan Rivers gets sent to the wall.
Can you hear me?
He gets sent to the wall for killing Amy's Blackfriar. Is that correct? For there's going to be a council.
Amy's Blackfire, executing him after. Yeah, if you want to go into that history, or I can.
They're guaranteeing him safe passage, or he says they're guaranteeing he's going to guarantee him safe passage to come to this council, to this great council where they're going to pick a new king, and he doesn't keep his word. He kills him, and then Aegon, is it Aegon the Fifth, formerly known as our Egg from the Duncan Egg novellas, he sends him to the wall. Well, when he gets to the wall, which we don't have much of a record of, he's there for 13 years, which I find this to be that number 13 constantly coming up, which as far as I know, it is not actually a bad number like people think that it is. In a lot of witchcraft, it's actually a very lucky number. So I never view it as that. And I don't know if it's just wishful thinking or you can kind of put something to what it is. I don't usually have bad luck on Friday the 13th. I think that's just, that's just superstitious.
Many bad things were like mentioning that 13th, right? Wasn't that like he executed Aenys? He was there. I mean, that's his history. That's why he was sent to the wall, where he was for 13 years. And then the whole history with the Friday the 13th, isn't that where the Knights Templar or something like that, where they were all executed after a decree was made or something like that, and then
I believe it was one of the Lewises. I believe he decided he wanted their money basically, so he issued a decree for them to be killed so that he could basically take their money, which is also what supposedly Bloodraven's father would do. Like if he coveted, this is what a shit he was. If he coveted your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, your castle, anything you had, he might draw you in close and then trump up something and have you killed to take everything that you had. So,
exactly.
Hold on, y'all. I'm communicating with Feuerhexe, so she's trying to get in the call.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself, and we'll see if you can get better sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. I'll go back to what you said beforehand. With the Raven's Teeth, I kind of didn't go into that because the thing that I find really strange is that Maester Aemon hardly ever mentions his famous relative, and I thought that was really odd. Like the Raven's Teeth would have been there for years too. Bloodraven was Lord Commander, but I think Maester Aemon might have mentioned him maybe once or twice, and the Raven's Teeth not at all. And they all served on the wall, and yet when Venjenz disappears, we're never allowed to forget it because Jon's forever mentioning Venjenz Dark. Bran brings up Venjenz Dark and says the children will save him at Winterfell. So I'm thinking, why did Aemon stay so quiet about his famous cousin? And why is all the other, it's kind of legends don't go down. Usually stories and legends go down through the ages. But when it comes to Bloodraven or Brendan Rivers back then and Raven's Teeth, nothing. No one mentions them. No one talks about them. I find that odd.
That is interesting. I mean, for that nobody else. I mean, Targaryens are famous. I mean, back then, right? Even at the wall. So even if, let's say, new recruits would come in, there should be some talk. Like people gossip, people do that. So by being a new recruit, I would say, hey, you know, history on this guy, or what's with this guy, or where is this guy coming from, to kind of get that stuff from somebody. And it took John a while to find out about it. Yeah, just about Maester Aemon, right? It took him a while, and then he doesn't find out about other things for a while. It is strange. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think it's extremely strange, but it could be also a case of, you know, a lot of times when somebody serves somewhere and maybe somebody thinks that they did something less than honorable, or maybe there was some kind of circumstances people didn't want to be known, you would see them kind of get erased from history. But I do think it's odd that Maester Aemon never mentions him, not ever, you know. Especially the situation that they now find themselves in, particularly if he, you know. But then again, I don't know. I mean, you would think that that he would think, maybe I would have thought that he would have put maybe 2 and 2 together with Jon Snow just a little bit, and we don't get that. So Maester Aemon, while he does know a lot, it seems like he's a very smart person who really doesn't have too much to say, really. I mean, we think about the stuff he doesn't really impart a super vast amount of knowledge out, though, if you think about it. And that's the thing that got me thinking about it. You know, hardly, I mean, until, and we even get a little bit of this in the show, until somebody just outright asks him, I guess maybe because, you know, you kind of leave all that behind, you know, until he has that conversation with Jon. Only a few people who are pretty smart and have deduced it even know who he is, you know, especially some of the highborn people, because that, you know, the names and stuff, Aemon. And yeah. I think
exactly, you said deduce. So I'm wondering, like, how close of a secret is it kept with that? Plus now we have at some point Sam is going through the books, and somewhere I'm sure there is you know, record of who has been where, who came here, like, you know, what families they came from to the wall, like some kind of a record of that.
Oh, exactly. And yeah, like AU just pointed out, that was 50 years before Jon, and you know, it's a whole different regime over there on the Iron Throne. And really, unless somebody outright asks, there really wouldn't be much, you know, because we don't see him talking a lot about, oh, well, I knew this person, such, et cetera, et cetera. But I tell you what, let's talk about this. I kind of think this, and you kind of posed this question in the video, Marie. What's the deal with Bloodraven? Okay, so he goes and does his 13 years at the Wall. I also saw a good comment in the chat that possibly Cold Hands was at one time one of the Raven's teeth. But did he want to find those children of the forest? Did he find them, or did they find him? And is it a case possibly of something like Arya and some of the other people we see on their journeys? Maybe he is just fulfilling everything that he was ever supposed to feel.
I think, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I think where I was coming from there, and where I've changed my mind a little bit, because it was a year ago since I've made it, and new revelations come out almost every day about Bloodraven. I didn't know whether he was inherently magic, or because I think if you've got to be the last Greenseer, it's got to be something inherent within you. You're born with it. And I thought, well, in the south, because he worked mainly in the south, there are not a lot of weirwood trees. So we can see how Bran is becoming a Greenseer by drinking the paste. But I don't think Bloodraven would have had that paste to drink. I think he was inherently magic through the his connection to the Blackwoods of Wolfswood. And as Jen mentioned beforehand, we never know the reason why the Starks kicked out the Blackwoods. And it was around the time that the Starks were warring with this War King of Sea Dragon Point. So did they either fail to assist the Starks, or did they join in? I kind of think they failed to assist, because I think if they had warred against the Starks would have actually wiped them out, because they were pretty ruthless kings of the North End, or kings of winter. they were pretty ruthless, the Kings of Winter. So I think if they joined with the War King and the children, the Starks would have taken their revenge and killed them all. But instead, I think they just failed to assist them and got banished from the Wolfswood. But that was their home, and it is written in the books. I've tried to stay as much with the books as possible. That's where with Dunk and Egg, it's hard to kind of get a grip on Bloodraven because there's so much rumours and speculation, but not actual fact. The real fact we have is that he knew how to glamour, because Dunk saw through it, his Maynard Plum exterior, and saw Bloodraven beneath that, which makes me think what's in Dunk that he could pierce that glamour, which Mel wears a glamour and no one has pierced it to see that she's an old woman. So I tend to think his abilities are inherent and he is a true greenseer. Now, when you look at Bran, because throughout the books it specifically states that a greenseer is born with green eyes or red eyes. Bran has blue eyes. He doesn't fit the requirements, I don't think, of a greenseer. There's something else that the children of the forest want from Bran, and they have it in Bloodraven because it's the blood. I believe it's their bloodline. I can't mute because if I mute then I can't unmute. I'm having real problems with
That's
it.
okay. And I meant to touch on that when I was talking about not only your position but the little gifts you inherit and whatnot. I meant to touch on his albinoism. Okay.
What?
Which, right, we are told that green seers have either green eyes or red eyes.
Albinoism?
And I wonder if his mom knew just like that, all of these things, that she was a Blackwood. Okay. Y'all know it's my husband. He's so silly. All right. We see him glamour. Okay, and you brought her up first. So, anytime we're talking about Bloodraven, we have to go here. Okay, he absolutely hated his half-brother, Bittersteel. The one who kind of started all the Blackfire stuff. But on top of just not liking him, they were in love with the same woman, Shiera Seastar. I believe his half-sister, Aegon's youngest daughter, I think last child with his with his last mistress, was it Sereny from Lys, who was said to be maybe some kind of witch or something. And there is a pretty popular theory that Melisandre is Shiera Seastar and Bloodraven's child, and that when she's having some of these visions and some of the other stuff, and when she's all like, oh, my magic is closer to the wall and all this stuff, that it's actually because of Bloodraven. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a combination of Bloodraven, Aemon Targaryen, and Jon Snow Targaryen being at the wall. 3 Targaryens. Well, Bloodraven's in close proximity, but Aemon and Jon are actually there. So I think that her... But I don't understand how Melisandre is sometimes so thick and doesn't pick up on it. When she looks into the flame, all I see is snow with a capital. I just feel, I think...
I was always thinking, like, why is she... I mean, she's old. She should know better, but age does not equal wisdom. So my excuse is just because she's old and she's been through a lot does not make her... She may know things, but she may not put it together well. So that's just my excuse for her. Age does not equal wisdom in her case.
Okay, Bubba Husky in the chat says, I thought Quaithy was Shiera Seastar.
That's one of the things I heard too. Her character is just... I mean, I heard more about Quaithe being Shiera Seastar versus Melisandre, but at this point, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of both. At least they kind of have both. They both have that something for it. I don't know. What do you think, Jen?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I don't. So I'll just say it. you know, at one time maybe I could have been persuaded that it was a Chardane, but I think maybe Sepulmore is a Chardane. I mean, I don't
But
know.
isn't Melisandre a bit too old for that to be her? I mean, she's like what, 400 or something, or even more. Some people say she's even older than that. So if there was a definitive time when what's her name, the other lady, Shara Seastar, I mean, she was born at some point after that, right? It's not been 400 years or more. So maybe that speaks against her being
Yeah, I
Melisandre
would
being
think
her.
so. I
Yeah.
mean, till somebody really pins down how old she is, I don't know who she is.
Well, that's
There's a go ahead, Maria.
well, that's a big difference between the show and the books. Is that Bloodraven? Doesn't he say he's 1,000 years or something? Whereas in the books, I don't believe he's 1,000 years at all. He's old, but he's not 1,000.
Yeah, they do have a lot of number discrepancies. Not maybe I shouldn't call them discrepancies. It's up to directors' interpretation of what they want to or where they want to take the show to. So there's difference in numbers of troops, different number of years of how old some people may have been or how long ago things might have happened. So yeah, I'm at this point it's difficult. Like when we make the theory or try to support a theory, it's difficult because you're taking it from two different sources, and people may say you should only go by what the book says, but then again, a lot of things are from the show, so kind of combining the two and making a guesstimate of what we think. It is difficult having two sources for that.
Well, I kind of went on with my speculation and wondering if, because the Blackwoods and the Starks are so close to Sea Dragon Point, and that's where the War King lived, do they share the blood of the War King? And I also think because he's the War King of Sea Dragon Point, was he connected to the Children of the Forest, who seem to have all the power? So is that where the Starks get their walking abilities and their skin changing is actually from the War King, because during their war they lost and the Starks took the women as their prizes, and so they would have either intermarried or had sex with them, and from that comes children who have the abilities of the War King. And I just kind of think, did the War King kind of, because they allied with the Children of the Forest, were they kind of connected either by marriage or some sort of whatever the children used, in a kind of union of the War King and the children when they're in the warring against the Starks? But that's where I think the Blackwoods and the Starks get their warging abilities. I do think Bloodraven was a natural warg, because I do think he warged into dogs, probably birds, and I don't know about the mist. I just kind of think whether that was Bloodraven's magic powers, was able to raise a mist. But the Raven's teeth could not have got it around as much as they did, and to know what Bloodraven knew as Hand of the King, without him kind of being near the person who's speaking. So I tend to think that he was a warg, and he could walk into a bird or wolf or any other creature that he chose. I think Bloodraven's really powerful.
I think that's why people always say, okay, y'all, for those of y'all who don't know, though I think y'all have all probably heard this, like when there's like, it's 1,000 eyes in one. So they keep on saying it in even the peasants in Duncan Egg novellas say it. And it's kind of like a running joke that you better not say or do anything because Bloodraven's going to see you. So, yeah, he was a big time spy, and I know we didn't like his brother, but to constantly defend, I don't know, maybe the queen was kind to him because it said that his mom really got along with Aegon the Unworthy's queen. So it could have something to do with that. Maybe she did them a kindness at some point. Who knows? We're not told. Now, I believe it's another theory that you and I have talked about, Marie, when we talk about Gilly's baby and how we believe those White Walkers are coming for that baby. You believe that possibly Craster is the son of Bloodraven, don't you?
I think Craster is either the son of Bloodraven, because I just find it strange that the Raven's teeth went back and wiped out the Night's Watch that killed Craster, or he's got Stark blood. Because don't forget, wasn't there was it an Ostrich Stark who once manned the wall? But there is something in Craster's blood, and I do believe that the Night's King wants it. So it's either Targaryen blood or Stark blood when it comes to Craster.
Okay, well, that makes complete sense to me, because in the story, in this world, I mean, we know you might be just traveling along in the free cities playing a prince in these little traveling shows, and next thing you know, some creepy wizard has bought you and cut your parts off and thrown them in a brazier.
Yeah, I'm sure they wish they had Ancestry.com back then, right? Like to check your parentage and see if you're safe to travel. Like, where do you come from? Where do I come from? Am I in danger? Oh Lord, that is funny. That is funny. Well, not funny for those who have to watch, or if there's like a king's blood sniffing witch or dog walking around looking for that. I wanted to ask for Marie and for Jen, how do you connect the doom of Westeros? I know we're going to be continuing this, but I would love to hear and for you to present some of that information here too.
Well, for me, it comes to the fact that some of this is on the show too, because in the books we haven't yet met the Night King. He's a kind of mythical figure. We've seen the others in the first chapter, but in the prologue of the Game of Thrones. But in the show, we see the Night King. In the books, he's not revealed yet. It just came to me that, and I think Tony Teflon also brought this up, and shout out to Tony Teflon, brought up this in one of his videos. I just don't believe one man with a fiery sword is going to be able to defeat so many of the dead. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of dead. And when he comes south, we've just had the War of the Five Kings, and so there's all these murdered people all over Westeros, which he only has to raise his hands, and they arise from the dead. And also, if Jon gets into a war with them, and someone beside Jon dies, someone behind Jon dies, and someone in front of Jon dies, they just raise up and kill him. So I thought, how does he win a war such as this? And I thought and Bran has to come into it too, because there's such a link between Jon, Bran, and Bloodraven. And I tend to think that Bloodraven is calling to Jon and Bran to use his magic. I think this is where Bran will have to use his magic to bring the doom. I actually don't think the others are going to bring the doom. I think Bran's going to bring the doom to save whatever he can of Westeros. That's my big theory. It's not the others. People think the others bring the doom. I think it's going to be Bran in an attempt to save Westeros from the others, because I just don't think Jon can do it on his own.
And if you can explain a little bit, because in this stream I have more questions than answers. Normally I have a huge opinion about stuff and I can talk for hours about it, but for this one I actually have more questions for you, Marie, about your opinion. And what do you mean when you say doom? Do you mean the same kind of doom as for Volantis, or is it Volantis? Am I right? No, yeah.
Valeria.
Yeah, Valeria. I'm sorry. Yes, not Volantis, Valeria. Is it the same one, or do you mean something else, different kind of doom?
I'm kind of linking this with Patchface, Damphair, Melisandre, Daenerys. All their visions have a connection and a similarity when you look at them together without going through trying to read them through the books. And what I can find out, there's a smoking mountain on Dragonstone. We know the children broke the arm of Dawn in the invasion of the First Men. That could have been an earthquake or a tsunami. And also the Neck was flooded in another attempt to defeat their enemies by the Children of the Forest. And the walls at Winterfell are always warm, which to me speaks of volcanic activity. And obsidian also comes from volcano activity. And also there's something really happened at Hardhome. So there could be underwater volcano there. So to me, it's the volcano. I can see the word exploding in volcanoes. And when Patchface talks about seeing people under the sea, I'm thinking, why would people go under the sea? And then I thought, well, think in simple terms of what a simple child might describe it as. And I'm thinking, if the sea comes over them, they're under the sea. But no one's actually going to walk into the sea and drown themselves. But they can't. If a tsunami happens.
Well, now hold on. Let's not put that past the iron board.
I know you're getting.
Yeah. There was a funny comment I want to mention that I'm not sure if you read it here. Baba Husky says theirs is Azor Ahai. His sword's been flaming for years. That just, yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't catch that one, and I usually do catch those things. So thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for making me smile.
Yeah, I spoke about this theory a long time ago, but it's the theory that I come up with. And I know Lucifer means light bringer. It's also got his own theory that it could be a impact of a meteor, and I'm quite on board with that idea too. He kind of got his own theory about the doom. He kind of thinks there's another. He kind of speculates that there might be a kind of doom of Westeros where a meteor strikes. Because when you think of it, I know old Nan has been right in many of her stories, but going back to the first long night, and she says it lasted a generation. Could it really last a generation, or did it wipe out a generation? Because if the sun is covered for, say, 20, 30 or whatever years, nothing would survive, absolutely nothing. There would be maybe cockroaches. Maybe cockroaches only would survive, but nothing could survive without the sun for such a long time. So is Nan kind of getting confused like she does with the Brandons, and it was a generation that was obliterated, and not that it lasted 10, 20 or 30 years? Because what could survive without the need of the sun? You just can't without the sun. You've got to have the sun's rays.
With that, I'm thinking there was a couple days ago or so, I watched something on Science Channel where actually there is kind of like when they mentioned that there was no it was night or it was winter. It reminded me of living in Alaska, for example, or somewhere up north where there is no. It's like basically 6-month seasons, right? Where you have only a couple hours of daylight. But also there's I think one of the planets, I'm going to probably say the wrong planet, but maybe Uranus or Saturn. One of those is tilted, and it's completely spinning different way, where you have a good number of years, a lot of years, where you are in dark meaning maybe cold and all that. So maybe, and then the whole thing about in a way there not being much progress, and I think I mentioned it somewhere before, where I just don't see much progress over there. They're like stuck in dark ages, although maybe not dark ages, but kind of like that for thousands and thousands of years. Who knows, maybe there has been that great decrease in population where, like with Black Plague or one of the illnesses where it just wipes out almost everybody, and they had to they froze to death or they starved. So it is interesting, but 30 years, that is a stretch. They would have to eat everything. They would eat to like everything that was moving, even the cockroaches. Who knows?
See, I kind of don't know how the world was made, and that kind of really haven't looked into it. But when the dinosaurs were killed off, I kind of think maybe a meteorite struck the Earth and that killed off the dinosaurs. None of them survived, because I should think the world might have the sun might have been covered for a certain amount of time and they didn't survive. And that's why we have all these skeletal remains of dinosaurs. But I just can't see anything surviving if there's a long period, say years and years of perpetual darkness. I just can't see that anyone surviving. So that's why I think it'll lead up to a doom. But I know Jen wants to take this to another stream, so that's kind of the last point of what I've written.
Oh, okay, and that's good. But what I'm sorry, I was watching the chat. Like Kimmy goes. Okay, so wait, no, Felicia said it's time to get a geophysicist And Kimmy goes, I know plenty of geophysicists. What? Who? And then Milt pops in, which is really what went through my mind. Like, well, what is Milt? um, and he said, oh, guess not. I'll go. But yeah, I was really thinking, hey, what is Milt? Because I thought he was a physicist or something, like super smart or something like that. But anyway, well, if you guys want to, we can kind of end this here so that everybody can get off to Westworld and catch everything they need to catch, and maybe pick up next week looking at the different like Melisandre's dream, Daenerys's dream, like all the different dreams or prophecies we have that kind of connect, that you believe, and that I think also that it's really Bloodraven is sending these messages out to people, and trying to communicate with folks, like warn them. And of course, Melisandre couldn't read a map to get she couldn't get across the state of Texas with a map and a tom-tom. And
she had good intentions, right? She had really good intentions, but poor lady, yeah.
But yeah, that was all. I just thought we'd do this in two, and I think maybe this is a good way to stop for today. And then next week when we get back into this, we'll get into some of the messages we think are being sent around Westeros by Bloodraven and company, Bloodraven and Bran.
Yeah, I know. With Milt, we kind of discussed this together when I was coming up with this theory about a year ago, and I think he was on board with the volcano theory. That might be one of the more relevant ones. But as I said, I'm quite on board too with LML's theory about a meteorite hitting the Earth. But I just think that something is going to happen to the land, and that's where they get the doom. But I basically think it's Bran, because Bran's a character, and I think he's very powerful, and I think he's going to do something to try and save Westeros from the Night King, if the Night King even shows up. We don't know in the books, but with the others, I think something really drastic has to happen.
Do you think by saving the Westeros, I mean, there's a lot of people there, is he gonna try to? But again, that's probably a question for next stream. Like, is he gonna be okay? Well, Bran at that point is kind of emo, so he might not care. He might just care about the overall well-being of the whole world versus a couple thousands of people, or however many there are. I wonder if he will be okay with sacrificing a lot of them.
I think that's where Bran will have to be ruthless and make ruthless decisions. And it doesn't matter where Jon is or where Arya is or Sansa. He's going to have to make decisions of how to save, even if it's because I can only see a remnant remaining of in the war against the others. And I've got a line here which Brynden tells Bran, and he says to Bran, "It's your blood. Your blood makes you a greenseer," said Lord Brynden. "This will help awaken your gifts and wed you to the trees." Now, I know a lot of people think it's Jojen paste he's eating, but I'm wondering if it's Brynden Rivers he's eating, because Brynden Rivers is a greenseer.
That is interesting, and equally, for me at least, equally as disturbing as Jojen paste.
Definitely. Like when you said that, I started thinking about y'all. I'm sorry to take y'all here. I know y'all will be like, what? But whenever you see one of these end of the world, what was that movie where they were going all over the place for that Braille Bible? I know what I'm talking about, with Denzel Washington. And anyway, and basically some kind of terrible event had happened where there was no food, and people would capture other people and cannibalize them, but they would keep them alive while they just cut off bits and pieces. I mean, I don't know that, I thought about it when you said it's a very disturbing thought, but extremely possible. I mean, we never do see the man's legs. We never do.
Oh, yeah. only in visions, right? Plus, right. He's kind of hooked up with those branches like an IV. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I would love to continue. There's it's almost like a never-ending topic about.
Exactly. And Bubba Husky has thrown out a question, thrown out a statement. You can speak to this. Bran, just as Bloodraven was, is a pawn of Leaf and Company's extremist branch of the Children of the Forest.
That's another thing I want to get into next week too, if we can.
Yeah.
Is I believe that there is a schism between the Children of the Forest. I think the children who live on the God's Eye may have kept a pact with the First Men, and the children who live beyond the Wall may have broken it. And
okay. Very good. Okay. And you say something about this in the video. Why are they living over there beyond the wall out there?
That's what made me wonder, because I'm thinking it's cold, it's lonely. They seem to be cut off, and then you've got the children on the God's Eye, which aren't brought in the show, but they're there, and they're alive, and that's where Helen Reed goes to, is the children in the God's Eye. So, but I kind of think that, is Bloodraven a pawn, or is he using the children? Remember, Brynden Rivers is a pretty smart guy.
Right. And he's used people before plenty of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like Melisandre does things by not actually caring about the person currently, because she thinks about a bigger picture. So does I mean, for him, it's the same thing probably. He lived through so much, so many lives at this point. You know, using somebody or a couple families, it's nothing if it brings him to the goal or whatever his goal is.
Yeah, he does seem like a ruthless person in that sort of way.
I think he's a kind of, the means justifies the ends. It's kind of like he's always been dead set against the Blackfires inheriting the throne. I'm thinking, did he see something in the future where the Blackfires would have been a disaster? I don't know how worse they can be, apart, from the Mad King, but maybe they are. And also, it kind of connects between Summerhall, the tourney at Harrenhal, where Rhaegar had to meet Lyanna, and I believe that the Pact of Ice and Fire had to happen, and maybe Bloodraven kind of made everything happen so that Rhaegar and Lyanna would meet, and Jon Snow, who is the balance, had to be born.
Okay, you guys.
A lot of good things. Yep.
So we were just if you haven't seen the video yet, we've got the link in this video to Marie's channel. It will have been the last video that she has put out. And I believe the title of it is Green Seer.
No, Doom of Westeros.
No, Doom of Westeros. Doom of Westeros. So if you guys are just seeing this, you're watching this later, which is fine. I totally get it. Check the video out. And then next week, a time to be announced, we're going to give the link out after Thursday, like we always do for the special Sunday stream. And we're going to get to more and deeper with this prophecy and what we see going on and what we think Bloodraven is actually up to, what he's doing, and break this down a little bit better. And also get a little bit more into these children of the forest and what we think they might be doing, or what we think their end game could possibly be. It's just, we know everybody's got so much tonight, and several people said something to me about it. Oh, well, we got this tonight, this, and I understand. I get it. I know everybody's busy, but we're going to continue with this next week. And I wanted to say that on Thursday for book club, we have at Art 7, and we are going to have James join us from Dust on the Throne. So he will be our special guest, just all girls and James. So that's really nice. We're really looking forward to that. Thursday, same time as always. Everybody who stopped by and everybody who will stop by, thank you very much. And look for the link next week, and we're going to really go in deeper with this. Marie?
Okay, that'd be a good idea. I know we've kind of chosen a really busy night, and I think Westworld might be premiering soon, so I have to miss it because my Foxtel's played up, so I'm going to have to miss it. But I wish everyone a good night, and as Jen said, if you want to check out the Doom of Westeros theory, if you're only just arriving and you don't really know what we're talking about, I edited and compiled it into one video, so it's a bit long, but worth watching if you want to join in next week. Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Jen, for having me on, and thank you, LMR, for your input too. Thanks, and thanks everyone for showing up. Baba Husky, Cami, Connie, good to see you, Connie, Felicia, and everyone from the from Citadel of Trivia. Thanks very much.
Oh, hey, Jake Cruz. We also had AU Pack Mule, Samid Sand. I don't think I missed him. Mary B, Cameo, Milt. I know you said Citadel of Trivia, but I'll just go ahead and say hey to everybody. All right. Thank you so much. Like we said, we know it's a super, super, super busy night. Elamar?
Thank you, Jen, for making this a reality. You talked about Marie's video for a while, so it's really exciting that she was able to come on such a busy night, but still from Australia. So it is amazing. Her video, extraordinary. There's, as I said before in the beginning, she made a video compiling everything, and then the original videos were posted a year ago, so you can go back to those, or you can watch the 26-minute one that is all together. And as far as for me, you can find me on my writing channel, Living My Rhapsody, where I do my writing journey. I'm not posting currently because I'm writing, so there's no time for posting. And then on my living reviews, where I do random reviews of things. So again, thank you so much, Jen. I'm looking forward to our Thursday and then to next week, where we continue this lovely topic and we can go into more details on a different, less busy night.
All right, everybody. Okay, so everybody out there, I know how you guys are. Y'all go enjoy some Westworld. Just remember, we're coming to you from several continents here. Forgive us. All right, everybody have a good night and a great week, and we'll see you Thursday.
See you then.